When strategy replaces claws and fangs, power becomes a deadly weapon. Among the dominant primates, who is worthy of the throne? Baboons and chimpanzees, the battle for survival and the throne. Dawn awakens on the Ethiopian plateau. The red sun rises from the horizon. The early light spills down the steep cliffs of the Simian Mountains, where the sky seems only an arm's length from the ground. The wind blows from the deep valley, cold, carrying the smell of young grass and damp mist. More than 3,000 meters above sea level, where the air is thin and the weather changes with a breath, exists a strange kingdom, the kingdom of the Gelada monkey. Shadows begin to move on the mountainside. The rocky slopes come to life as hundreds of Gelada monkeys wake up after a night of curling up in the cold wind. They flock to the grasslands, basking in the morning sun, their calls echoing down the distant ravines. From a distance, the scene looks like a reddish-brown river flowing through the plateau. This monkey is the only one in the baboon family that lives only in Ethiopia. But if you look closely, you will realize that they are unlike any other species. The fur is long, thick, and shaggy like a lion's mane, especially in adult males. The face is black, the eyes are bright yellow. And right in the middle of the chest, a triangular patch of red skin glistens in the sun, like a burning wound. In females, when it is breeding season, that patch of skin swells, turns a brilliant color, an unmistakable signal to the male group. The Ethiopians call them red-breasted monkeys, a symbol of passion, but also of the flame of power. Unlike their steppe relatives, Gelada do not hunt, do not eat meat. Their main food is young grass, roots and seeds. For hours every day they sit bent over, plucking grass with their skillful hands, chewing noisily like diligent old farmers. But don't let that gentle demeanor fool you. The Gelada are masters of mountain politics. Their social structure is so complex that scientists call it a hierarchical society, where a dominant male commands his own group of females, and hundreds of groups form a giant kingdom on the mountainside. Every day temporary alliances are forged, and every day silent coups are carried out. There is no grassland to run to, no thick trees to hide in. On these steep cliffs, any failure is deadly. In this sea of dope monkeys, there is a leader who rules the southern grasslands, Talek, a huge alpha male with a fiery red mane and a cold gaze. He has been in power for 3 rainy seasons. Every morning, as the sun rises, Talek goes to the edge of the cliff, where the wind blows the thick fur around his neck and roars his calls that echo across the valley. It was a declaration of power. This land belongs to me. The young males only dared to bow their heads, quietly chewing grass at the edge of the herd. But one of them, Kanu, just 5 years old, began to look at Talek with different eyes. Kanu was young, fast, and in his prime. He had learned to read every signal in the herd, from the eyes of the adult females to the position he sat when eating grass. Among the Galata, strength is not the only thing that maintains power. A male who wants to rule must hold the hearts of the females. If they turn their backs, he will lose everything. And Talek was slowly losing that. He became aggressive, taking all the good grass, biting the females if they were distracted. The scars on his face were proof of years of domination by violence. Meanwhile, Kanu made his way silently. He did not challenge them directly, but groomed the females, divided the grass, and cared for the young. It was not just a friendly gesture, but a strategy of power. In Galata, every brush was a vote. And Kanu was collecting votes every day. At noon, the herd moved closer to the edge of the cliff, where the grass was greener with the night dew. The sky was clear, the wind was strong. Talek sat in the middle of the herd, looking indifferent. But when he saw Lyra, a young female, who was holding Kanu close, he sprang up, lunged forward, yanked the female away, bared his fangs in threat. The screams spread throughout the herd. The others backed away, silent. For a few seconds, power was reasserted by fear. But deep inside, trust was broken. As the afternoon wore on, the herd gathered for the night on the high cliffs. Hundreds of them crowded together on small ledges, only a few meters wide. The sun was setting, the whole mountainside glowed in orange. The females huddled together, arms holding their young, eyes glancing at Talek, then at Kanu. On the summit, Talek sat alone. From there, he could see the sea of Talza below, and could also feel the wind changing direction. The next morning, the coup began. In the middle of the grassland, Talek approached Kanu, roaring in defiance. Two huge bodies reared up, manes flying, light reflecting off bloody fangs. The female screamed, backing away. The roar echoed across the mountainside. Talek charged, attacking. Kanu counterattacked. The two rolled in the grass, their red manes mixed with blood. The wind blew, the clouds rolled, as if the sky itself were witnessing the bloodshed. When the grass was crushed, Talek fell, his chest heaving, his eyes lost. He looked around, the females had left, gathered around Kanu. No one spoke, but everything was decided. Talek staggered away from the herd, walked down the cliff edge, disappeared into the mist. On the summit, Kanu stood in the middle of the circle of adult females. It was the coronation of a new king. Late in the afternoon, when the sun gradually disappeared from the mountain range, the Galata silhouette sat quietly chewing grass, as if no battle had ever happened. But in the last light of the day, the red patch of skin on Kanu's chest shone brightly, the new fire of the Ethiopian plateau. Where the wind and clouds met, a new dynasty began. And like every other ruler in the primate world, Kanu would soon learn on this plateau, all thrones are built on violence, and will collapse because of it. The morning mist covers the Central African jungle. The weak sunlight filters through the thick canopy, casting faint streaks of light on the damp ground. The space is dead silent, except for the sound of water droplets falling from leaf to leaf, the intermittent chirping of birds, and occasionally a strange sound in the distance. It is not a human voice. It is the morning greeting of the rulers of this forest, the chimpanzees. Underneath the dense canopy, a giant community is waking up. Dark shadows begin to move among the trees, long hands clinging to the trunks, swaying gently through the light. The whole forest seems to be awakened by the sound of life. This is Kabale National Park, the heart of Uganda, home to more than 1,000 chimpanzees and one of the most complex animal societies on the planet. Chimpanzees, pan-troglodytes, are the most intelligent primates, sharing more than 98% of their genes with humans. They use branches as spears to hunt, leaves as straws to drink water, and stones as hammers to crack seeds. In the damp shade of the forest, life is not determined by fangs, but by strategy and intelligence. And it is here that nature's master strategists tell us that story. Light filters through the thick foliage. Above, a troop of red colobus monkeys swing from branch to branch, their dark brown bodies hidden among the trees. They are alert, but unaware of the eyes watching from below. In the bush, a group of chimpanzees hide in silence. They wait, observe, and plan. Unlike spontaneous predators, chimpanzees bide their time. Each individual reads the prey, calculates the distance, and waits for the perfect moment to strike. Then suddenly, the hunt breaks out. Screams, rustling leaves, colobus monkeys struggling desperately. In a few seconds, the jungle is quiet again, except for the heavy breathing of the predators. The chimpanzees divide each piece of meat. The young ones observe, learn how to divide, learn both the cruelty and the lessons of survival of the species. For chimpanzees, this is not just a hunt. It is a game of survival where every move is calculated. And in that game, they always have the last move. But the hunt is only a small part of a larger game. Because what makes chimpanzees truly different is not the tools, it is the politics. They live in communities that can number in the hundreds, with ranks, alliances, and intrigues that are no different from a miniature human society. Every day in Kibale is a drama. The dominant males fight for position. The females form alliances to protect their young, and the young individuals silently observe, waiting for the opportunity to rise up. Here, a brush of fur can be a pledge of allegiance. And a misplaced glance can spark a bloody war. Unlike the Galata monkeys who live in the air, chimpanzees choose to hide in the darkness of the forest, where vision is obscured, where sound is the only language of power. A thump on a tree trunk, drumming, can be heard for miles, announcing to everyone in the forest, "I am here." It is the ruler's declaration, and also a warning of war. In the midst of that forest, there exists a group of chimpanzees famous for their ferocity and wisdom, the Canyon Tail group. Their leader, the alpha male named Koba, has dominated for 3 years. His body is huge, his shoulders are broad, his face is dark. He once defeated 2 challengers in a matter of seconds, and since then, the whole forest knows his voice. But power, no matter how strong, cannot overcome time and human hearts. In the shadows of the forest, Makena, a young male, quietly observed. Unlike Koba, Makena did not show off his strength. He observed, remembered, waited. When Koba roared, Makena quietly groomed the oppressed, middle-aged males. When Koba took the ripe figs, Makena shared them with the females with young. Each of these small actions, day by day, wove an invisible network of alliances. The chimpanzees gradually split into 2 groups. One half still feared Koba's power, the other half began to trust Makena. The young but calm one, and between them, an important link, Kalonzo, Koba's right-hand man, began to waver. He was tired of the old leader's tyranny, of the unnecessary fights, of having to bow his head in submission. One day, under the damp canopy, their eyes met. Without words, just a slight nod, and an alliance was formed. In the Kibale forest, power is not taken by claws, but by eyes. The next morning, the pack moved deeper into the forest. Koba was still leading, stopping occasionally, banging his hand loudly on the tree trunk, declaring his power. But the hoo-hoo sound behind him was sporadic. The forest was unusually silent, as if holding its breath. At noon, a young male accidentally approached Koba's female, an absolutely forbidden act. Koba roared and charged. The roar resounded. But this time no one stood up to help him. From the shadow of the forest, Makena stepped out. His eyes were cold and calm. Kalonzo, who used to be Koba's right-hand man, approached and stood next to Makena. No words. Only silence. Koba charged. The roar was muffled. Koba fell, his body riddled with wounds. He tried to get up, but no one was by his side. The males watched. The females dragged their young away. Above, sunlight filtered through the canopy, falling in patches on the mud-soaked body. The herd fledged. Only the sound of the forest remained, and a king was left behind in his former kingdom. From the Ethiopian highlands to the deep forests of Central Africa, primate power takes many forms, sometimes through violence, sometimes through strategy. But then, whether where the wind and clouds meet, or in the damp shade of the forest, all kings have the same ending. Born in struggle, and end in solitude. Which survival battle impressed you the most? Leave your thoughts in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you don't miss the next wild journeys. As the morning sun dries the mud, a mother and her baby hippo follow the edge of the swamp in search of fresh grass. The calf, almost a year old, curiously follows, unaware that the world that is about to unfold before their eyes will be completely different. A roar rings out, mud flies everywhere, two adult males charge at each other, a territorial battle has begun. In southwestern Kenya, where the Talek River flows into the Mara, there is a world that is both rich and brutal, a place where survival is not for the weak. Here, under the murky, muddy water, a baby hippo is born among a herd of 40. He is named Gumba, meaning strong, in the ancient Maasai language. From the very beginning, Gumba learns one thing: water is life, but it is also a place filled with danger. Together with his mother, he practices diving with his breath held, with only his nose and ears above the water, a basic survival skill of hippos. Gumba's skin is sensitive to the harsh sunlight, and the special red sweat from his body is no protection without mud. One morning, when the early morning sun was still soft and the sandbank of the Talek River was just warm enough to dry the mud on his back, Gumba's mother decided to take him ashore to rest, a rare moment of the day to recover. But as they waded through the shallow water, a group of crocodiles had taken over the golden sand, stretching out motionless, camouflaged like dry logs in the sun. Gumba's mother did not hesitate. In that moment, in the heart of the harsh savannah, his mother gave him something more precious than shade or water, the feeling of absolute protection. But the wild world is never a peaceful home. Even within the herd, Gumba, with his small stature and gentle personality, became the target of bullying. In the hippo herd, the law is unspoken: the weak will always retreat. One scorching afternoon, when the Talek River was low, Gumba was surrounded by a larger calf and forced to the edge of the swamp. Mother Gumba, weighing over a ton, charged forward like a swamp chariot, pushing the aggressor away. She did not roar like a lion, nor did she scream like a hyena, but each of her stomps created fierce waves. Each of her gores was an unmistakable warning. The herd fell silent. The other cubs backed away, their eyes avoiding each other. From that day on, no one dared to touch Gumba while his mother was still present. In the cruel wild world, his mother was the last fortress. One day, he would have to defend himself. But until then, he was still surrounded by the largest and most indomitable figure of his life. As time passed, Gumba grew from a weak calf into a nearly 2-ton male hippo, muscles rippling under a thick, ash-gray hide. But with maturity came the first dry season of his life, a cracked and unforgiving nightmare. The Masai Mara savanna was parched and scorched. The ground was cracked like old crocodile skin, and the once vast Talek was a muddy, murky, foul-smelling stretch of water. The mud was stinking. The water was hot as a soup of sunshine, but that was all Gumba had left. With no deeper water to hide in, the herd was forced to squeeze into the small water hole, body to body, breath hot, and the air thick with ammonia. Every move could touch another's fangs. In such conditions, any collision could easily escalate into violence. Under the scorching sun of the Maasai afternoon, the mud steaming hot, and the air thick with the smell of shallow water, Gumba, now a full-grown male, faced the inevitable, an older, larger, dominant male hippo approaching. No warning, no choice. The fight broke out fiercely. Two giants of muscle rushed at each other, butting, biting, roaring like thunder. Mud flew into the sky. Blood splattered in crimson streaks. This was not a show of force, it was a fight to the death. Both were badly injured. Gumba had a torn side, bleeding from his shoulder. Finally, the ruler was forced to retreat, dragging his bite-ridden body out of the mud. But before he could retreat far, he was caught in the sights of a pack of lions that had been lurking. Golden shadows rushed out like a whirlwind, forcing the loser into a deadly siege. One fall to the ground, and no chance to get up, even though he was the victor. Gumba quietly left, carrying his wounds and the shadow of someone who no longer belonged. Then, a slight movement on his back. The oxpeckers landed, began to peck at each parasite, sucking the blood that had pooled around the wound. No words, no pact, but they were the silent saviors when Gumba was at his weakest. In a world where the strong survive and the weak die, life sometimes comes from the smallest creatures. It quietly disappeared into the reeds, leaving only a trail of mud that stretched like old blood. But the silence did not last long. As Gumba disappeared on the other side of the swamp, another figure was lurking for his chance. In the grove of acacia trees, the golden eyes that flashed in the sunset were not the eyes of an outcast, but the eyes of a predator. It was Nuru, a female leopard who had survived 3 dry seasons by her own lonesomeness and sharpness. Unlike the big, muscular, and flamboyant Gumba, Nuru was the embodiment of silence and death. With her spotted fur blending into the bushes, she was almost invisible in the tall grass. When Gumba was pushed away from the herd, Nuru was watching the herd of antelopes march toward the last watering hole where life was scarce, where death became predictable. Masai Mara is no respecter of persons. Today's strong may be tomorrow's prey. And in this never-ending game of survival, every individual from the giant hippo to the quiet leopard is but a fragile pulse in the cruel cycle of nature. Nuru pressed close to the ground, each step as gentle as the wind through the grass. Not a sound, not a leaf stirred. The distance between him and the herd of antelope was less than 40 meters. But in the world of leopards, 40 meters was the distance between life and starvation. In front of him, a young female antelope had just left the herd to find water. She was smaller, agile, but inexperienced, a fatal mistake in a world where the strong are not always the fastest, but the first to strike. Nuru lowered his body a little more, waiting for the perfect moment. The muscles under his spotted skin rippled, his eyes locked on his prey. There was no hatred. No emotion, just pure instinct. And then, like a spring, Nuru sprang away. Nuru breathed heavily, eyes still alertly looking around. He knew he didn't have much time. The hyenas could come at any moment, as could the lions, and a pack of wild dogs circling near the horizon. For the leopard, victory was not killing the prey, but holding it. In the shade of the undergrowth, Nuru began to drag the prey's body up to a nearby tree trunk with extraordinary for a body that weighed no more than 60 kilograms. Up high, no one fought, no one robbed. This was his own dining table, quiet, discreet, and absolutely safe. On a high branch, Nuru gnawed on the last pieces of meat from the young antelope. The sun had almost set, casting a red-gold light over the entire steppe. The rains quietly returned to the Masai Mara, greening the dry grasses and awakening Nuru's deepest instincts. Her body changed, leaving a trail of pheromones on every path, a silent invitation to the males in the air. After a few chases, selections, and tests, Nuru accepted a worthy mate. The mating was quick and fierce, and then the male left, his role over. Now Nuru carried a life within her. She was no longer a silent hunter, but a mother, about to enter a battle more fierce than any she had ever hunted before. Two months later, in a cave hidden deep between giant tree roots and gray rocks, Nuru gave birth to a leopard cub. They were blind, weak, and no bigger than a mouse. In the wild, it was the most beautiful and fragile moment. For weeks, Nuru hid in absolute silence. Every time she went out to hunt, she had to leave her cub alone to face danger. Hyenas lurk. Martial eagles can snatch them away with a single swoop. Even Nuru's other male leopards will kill cubs that are not their own. Enemies are everywhere. Nuru had to learn to move the den every 3 to 5 days before the scent of the young spread to attract predators. Each time she carried her young, she gently bit the neck, her eyes always looking around the bush, her ears perked up at every sound of the wind. For Nuru, at this time survival was no longer about killing prey, but about keeping the young alive, day by day. Time passed like the fierce and cold Mara River in flood season. Nuru's children were now grown strong and instinctively leaving, each to find their own territory, a new life. Nuru returned to the inherent solitude of the leopard, quiet, hidden, quiet. cloudy morning, Nuru followed the scent of a baboon, a difficult but protein-rich prey. She hid in the bush, waiting for an opportunity. When the monkeys moved down to the open grassland, Nuru jumped out with lightning speed, neat and precise. Nuru carried the female baboon's body back to the bush. As she dropped it, she heard a small noise. A newborn baby monkey crawled out from under its mother. It squeaked softly, trying to cling to its cold body. Nuru watched for a while, then she carried the mother's body away, leaving the baby under a tree. In the following days, Nuru hunted at night and returned each morning. Although she was not its biological mother, she protected it from the spotted hyenas that came near, chasing them away many times when they came sniffing. The baby monkey survived not because of its mother, but because of the one who had been a threat. As the first rains of the season began to fall on the Masai Mara, the shallow puddles filled up again. The grass grew green and cool mud filled the lowlands. The smell of wet soil and floodwaters awakened something long dormant. At a bend in the Talek River, which had once been its old territory, a large figure emerged from the edge of the forest. Gumba, the hippo, who had been driven from the herd, had returned. Bigger, heavier, the scars on his back and shoulders told the story of his solitary years. He stepped into the water, slowly but surely. The old river still smelled familiar, of mud, of his kind, and of challenge. In the distance, a group of hippos were bathing, silent. They did not know that the one who had been the outcast was now ready to reclaim his rightful place. Gumba did not roar, he just stood there, water up to his chest, eyes fixed on the leader who was watching. The silence stretched like a taut rope. And then, without a word, the two rulers charged at each other. He did not stand up again. Gumba let out a low, short growl, not in celebration, but in affirmation. This territory had a new owner. As the sunlight on the river subsided, the group returned. The young approached Gumba, silent. And for the first time in years, the once outcast hippo stood at the center, no longer a bystander. Gumba is back, not just a warrior, but a king of the swamp. The afternoon is falling slowly over the Masai Mara. The last rays of the day are gliding across the Talek River, shimmering in the ripples where Gumba stands. Around him, the hippos are settling down, soaking in the warm water, as if the fight never happened.